You ever step on a landmine you didn't know was there except it's wearing your girlfriend's perfume and smiling at your little brother? Yeah, that was my welcome home party. My name's Jason. I'm 29, Army vet. Spent the last stretch of my 20s in the sandbox patching up soldiers and ducking mortars with a busted knee and a stubborn will to live. I came home thinking the worst was behind me. Turns out the real damage doesn't come from shrapnel. It comes from silence, from smiles that hide knives, from the people who were supposed to be your safe place turning out to be the firing squad. But let's back up. I didn't grow up in a war zone, but it sure felt like I did. My parents only had one golden child, and it wasn't the guy who came home in uniform. No, that role was reserved for Ryan, my younger brother. 3 years younger, 3 feet up my parents' metaphorical pedestal. He could have burned down the garage, and they'd have blamed faulty wiring. Me? I could save a kid's life in combat and still get asked, why can't you be more like your brother? After I got out, Grandma's will gave me one last shot at something real. $140,000 she left in a trust fund. Said she wanted me to build something that mattered. I knew exactly what I'd do, a fitness center for vets. Not some chain gym with Instagram slogans, but a real space. Healing. Structure. Brotherhood without the bullets. Enter Mia. She was studying physical therapy. Said she respected what I'd been through. Asked real questions. Listened. The kind of woman who made you think maybe, just maybe, life wasn't done surprising you in good ways. I fell. Hard. And fast. We talked dreams, business plans, marriage. I even hid a ring in the sock drawer. My plan was to propose after the gym deal closed. Turns out she had plans of her own. And I had no idea just how long she'd been rewriting the script behind my back. Want to see how deep the rabbit hole goes? If you ever want to test the structural integrity of your soul, walk in on your girlfriend and your little brother in bed. In your bed. I wasn't supposed to be home that day. VA meeting wrapped early, traffic was light, and I thought I'd surprise Mia with her favorite takeout and a quiet night. Romantic, right? Well, surprise was mutual. There they were, Mia and Ryan, scrambling like 2 raccoons caught in a fridge light. Sheets tangled, guilt all over their faces, and me standing there holding Thai food like the world's saddest third wheel. Ryan had the nerve to smirk. Jason, man, listen. I didn't. I just turned around and left. Because here's the thing, when you've patched up soldiers screaming in sandstorms, when you've slept beside mortars and called it a good night if you didn't lose anyone, you don't blow up. You go still. I didn't yell. Didn't punch a wall. Just sat in my truck in the driveway for a long, long time, staring at the house I paid for. The bed I built. The life I thought I was creating. Turns out Mia and Ryan had been at it for 8 months. 8. While I was limping through physical therapy and building a future from the ashes, they were playing house behind my back. And the worst part? No one seemed shocked. Mia cried when she confessed, sure, but it felt more like inconvenience than remorse. Like she'd been caught sneaking a snack before dinner, not detonating the foundation of someone's life. Ryan didn't apologize. Of course he didn't. Golden boys don't apologize. They just shrug and say things like, I didn't mean for it to happen. That's the funny thing about betrayal, it's never an accident. It's a series of choices made in rooms you're not in. But as bad as that moment was, I hadn't seen the real betrayal yet. Because the next bomb wasn't emotional, it was financial. And it was wearing my parents' signatures. I always thought rock bottom was a myth. Some poetic metaphor people threw around when life got rough. Turns out, rock bottom has a number, $140,000. That was the amount left to me by my grandmother. A woman who believed in me when no one else did. While my parents were busy turning Ryan into their personal legacy project, Grandma saw me. She told me once, you've got quiet strength, Jason. It scares people who only know how to make noise. That money was locked in a trust until I turned 30. A formality, I was told. My parents were named as co-trustees, again, just paperwork. Nothing to worry about. So I didn't. I kept grinding. Kept mapping out blueprints for my vet center gym. Took meetings with local reps, even got a zoning approval in progress. Every step forward felt like reclaiming something until the bank call. Just confirming the withdrawal, Mr. Carter, the voice said. What withdrawal? The silence on the other end said it all. They drained it. Every penny. Gone. I thought it had to be a mistake. Some kind of glitch. But no. My parents, the very people who barely clapped when I got back from the army, decided to clean out the trust. You know, for family reasons. The reason? They used the entire sum as a down payment. For Ryan. And Mia. Their wedding. Their house. Their fresh start. My inheritance, my shot at a life beyond survival, was now wrapped in a bow and gifted to the two people who nuked mine. I confronted my parents that night. No yelling, no dramatics, just a calm, simple question. Why? Dad cleared his throat like he was at a board meeting. We thought it was the right thing to do. Ryan has a family now. He needs stability. And I don't. Mom chimed in, "You're strong, Jason. You always land on your feet." Ah, of course. I was the dependable one. The emotional mule. The guy who could take a hit and keep marching, so why not take a few more? I walked out of that house and never looked back. But I wasn't done. Because if they thought they'd buried me, they forgot one important thing. I knew how to dig. I didn't scream. I didn't plead. I didn't ask them to explain the math of betrayal. I just left. There's a kind of silence that makes people nervous, the kind that doesn't come from weakness, but from calculation. And in that moment, I realized they never feared losing me, because they never imagined they could. I drove to a cheap motel on the edge of town, the kind with vending machines older than my childhood trauma. Slept with one eye open, out of habit. Not from war, this time from trust. The next morning, I made two decisions. 1, I was done being the dependable one. 2, I was building the gym anyway. I transferred my GI Bill benefits and enrolled in a rehab science program across state lines. Packed up what little they hadn't taken and hit the road. No goodbye letters. No dramatic speeches. Just a voicemail to my parents that said, "Thanks for the lesson." 6 months later, I was living in a one-bedroom walk-up in a city where no one knew my last name. And let me tell you, it was the most peaceful I'd felt in years. I worked part-time at a veteran outreach center. Helped amputees relearn basic movement. Trained beside guys who had seen worse than I had and still cracked jokes while doing squats with one leg. That's where I met Sarah. Psychologist. Former Navy. Ran group therapy with a quiet strength that reminded me of my grandmother. She asked questions that didn't sound like therapy but still managed to untangle knots I didn't know I had. We started as colleagues. Became friends. And slowly something real. No games. No masks. Just two people with scars learning how to make space for each other. Meanwhile, I got certified, then hired. Then promoted. Then partnered. By the end of year 2, we opened the first rehab facility under my name. By year 4, we had 3. And by year 5, we had a waiting list of veterans who actually wanted to be there. Healing. Rebuilding. I didn't post about it. Didn't send Christmas cards. Didn't go on some speech tour about forgiveness. I just lived. But the thing about silence? Eventually, it gets too loud for them to ignore. It was a Tuesday again. Seems like betrayal's favorite day of the week. 5 years after I vanished from their lives, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Left to voicemail. Then another. Then an email. Then 3 more voicemails. All from my parents. Apparently, tragedy had struck. Ryan was out of work. Injured, some warehouse accident. Mia was at home with 3 kids and no income. The house? Teetering on foreclosure. Turns out Ryan wasn't as golden when the bills started stacking up. And Mia? Well, she hadn't exactly turned into the Florence Nightingale they were hoping for. The message from my mother was the one that really hit the irony bone. "Jason, honey, your brother needs you. We're family. Please, don't let us lose everything." Ah yes, now I was family. Suddenly the guy they had emotionally benched for 29 years was being called off the sidelines to save the team. They even framed it like a redemption arc. This could be a fresh start, my dad said. For all of us. Fresh start? They already had theirs. Bought and paid for with my future. Sarah saw the messages piling up on my phone one night and raised an eyebrow. "You going to call them back?" I sipped my coffee and smiled. "No. I already did." She looked confused. I handed her the letter I drafted. Not to them for me. Closure, not communication. It read, "I used to think family meant unconditional love. Turns out in our house it meant unconditional access. You didn't lose a son. You lost the ATM that finally ran dry. You don't miss me, you miss what I could give you. But here's the thing. I gave enough. We're done. No venom. No dramatics. Just facts. And I never sent it. Because people like that don't need closure, they need consequences. So no, I didn't return the calls. I didn't wire the money. I didn't show up like some backup quarterback they could trot out in the 4th quarter. I stayed gone. And that, more than any revenge fantasy, was the win. It's funny how people remember your value once you stop handing it out for free. A month after the first round of pity voicemails, I got a certified letter from my parents. Actual paper. Signature required. Apparently, the calls hadn't worked, so they upgraded to guilt by mail. Inside, A letter from a lawyer. They were formally requesting assistance to help Ryan and Mia keep the house. The same house my inheritance bought. The same inheritance they swore was a family investment. They'd attached bank statements, photos of the kids, even a handwritten note from Mia, complete with a little smiley face at the bottom. Like that would sweeten the knife in my back. I stared at that letter for a long time, not because I was considering it, but because I couldn't believe how little they thought I'd changed. See, the old me? The version of Jason who just wanted to be accepted, he might have cracked. He might have reached out, offered something, tried to be the bigger man. But I buried that guy years ago, right next to the plans they stole from me. Instead, I filed the letter away with the others, in a folder labeled, "Debt That's Not Mine." Then I got in my truck, drove to one of our rehab centers, and spent the afternoon with a double amputee who just completed his first unassisted lift. The guy was grinning like he won the Super Bowl, and in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete. Not angry, not bitter, just done. Because the real revenge, it wasn't watching them fall. It was realizing I no longer needed to be part of their rise. They showed up unannounced. I was walking out of the center one Friday afternoon, still in scrubs, when I spotted a familiar car parked crooked across two spaces. My mother was standing outside it, hands wringing like she was auditioning for a soap opera. My father sat inside, eyes fixed forward like a man on his way to confession. And there, leaning against the hood like he still owned the world, Ryan. He had a cane now, purely decorative from the looks of it, and a face that said regret, but a posture that still whispered entitled. "Jason," my mom called out, voice cracking like we were in the third act of a Hallmark special. "We just want to talk." I didn't stop walking. "Please," she said, following me halfway to my truck. "Just 5 minutes. That's all we ask. 5 minutes. That's what they offered me now." Funny. When I was 23 and fresh out of Afghanistan, they couldn't spare 2. But sure, now they're all about family time. I paused. Not for them, for me. Just to see if I still felt anything. Spoiler, I didn't. 5 minutes, I said flatly. And I'm not offering tissues. We sat in the visitor lounge inside the center, neutral ground. For chairs, no excuses. My father cleared his throat first. Classic move. "Son, we made mistakes." "Yeah," I said. "I noticed." He nodded like I just confirmed the weather. "Your brother's going through a tough time. I'm not here to troubleshoot Ryan's life." Mia wasn't there, by the way. Guess it was easier to beg for help without dragging the architect of betrayal into the room. Mom stepped in then, tears queued up like a performance she'd been rehearsing in the mirror. "We were wrong. About all of it. But we're family. That has to count for something." "Family?" I repeated. "You sure? Because the last time I checked, family doesn't rob you blind and hand the loot to the guy sleeping with your girlfriend." Ryan flinched. Dad looked at the floor. Mom sniffled harder. I stood up. "You didn't come here for forgiveness. You came here for comfort. And I'm fresh out." And I walked out, calm, steady, whole. Because forgiveness isn't owed just because someone finally realizes they're broke. They didn't follow me out. I think somewhere in that moment, they realized the Jason they used to manipulate had been quietly replaced. No more walking welcome mat. No more fallback plan. Just a man who learned the hard way that some doors don't need to stay open. A week later, I got a handwritten letter from my mom. No envelope this time. Just tucked under the door of the center like she was slipping guilt through a slot machine. She wrote things like, "We miss the old you," and "Ryan is still your brother, no matter what happened." But the line that really stuck with me, "You used to have such a big heart." Yeah, I did, until they carved it up and served it to each other like birthday cake. See, they didn't regret what they did. They regretted the results, the comfort they lost, the access they no longer had. Their apologies weren't about me. They were about getting me back on the hook. And they didn't know this, but I'd already had the gym audited for legal safety. Confirmed everything they did with the trust fund was technically above board, morally bankrupt, but legally airtight. No lawsuit, no justice, just the truth. And that was enough. Sarah asked me once, do you think they ever really loved you? I shrugged. Maybe in the way people love furniture. As long as I was useful, sturdy, and stayed in place, sure. Because what they wanted wasn't a son. They wanted a donation with a pulse. I gave them neither. There's a strange kind of grief that comes with outgrowing people you once would have bled for. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's a quiet closing of doors, like turning off the lights in a house you finally realize was never home. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't change mine. I just stopped answering. Let Ryan figure out how to keep his house. Let my parents get used to calling an echo. If they ever realized the full weight of what they'd done, they never said it. But I doubt they did. You can't teach empathy to people who only understand loss when it happens to them. Some nights, I'd walk through one of our facilities after hours. Just checking lights, saying hi to the late shift guys. I liked hearing the sound of weights clinking, the low hum of treadmills. Real healing happening in real time. This one vet, name's Travis, he stopped me one night. Hey man, can I ask you something? Sure. Are you always this calm? Even when people screw you over? I laughed. No. But eventually you learn the difference between a fight and a trap. Screaming at people who never listen doesn't make them hear you, it just makes you hoarse. He nodded. Fair. I guess I'm trying to be more like that. I clapped him on the shoulder. Start by knowing who deserves your noise. That'll cut your volume in half. He grinned. That night, I sat in my truck a while before going home. Thought about Grandma. About what she'd say if she saw what I'd built. About how the people she trusted with my future had cashed it in like casino chips. Then I looked at the building. My name on the sign. The lights still on. And I realized something. I didn't need their apology. Because I'd already given myself something they never could. Peace. You know what they don't tell you about moving on? It's boring. No explosions. No last-minute confessions. Just steady days stacking into good months. Bills paid on time. Coffee that stays warm. A woman beside you who doesn't make you feel like you're auditioning to be kept. Sarah and I moved into a modest house just outside the city. Nothing flashy, white walls, wide porch, room for a dog we swore we wouldn't adopt, but did anyway. His name's Diesel. Because of course it is. We talk late at night about her patients, my staff, the weird things veterans say that are somehow hilarious and heartbreaking at the same time. No eggshells. No passive-aggressive sighs. No wondering what version of her I was getting today. Just peace. The kind you can hear. The gym expanded. Not just in square footage, but in purpose. We added mental health resources. Partnered with employment networks. We were changing lives, one stubborn, limping vet at a time. And the best part? I never once had to advertise to my old family that I was thriving. No Instagram humblebrag. No holiday newsletter. Just the occasional whisper I'd hear secondhand. That Ryan was back at home. That Mia had taken up couponing like it was an Olympic sport. That the house, the one paid with my inheritance, had been sold under market value just to stop the bleeding. Karma didn't knock on their door. It moved in, rearranged the furniture, and made itself at home. And me? I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just went on with my life, one full inhale at a time. Because sometimes the loudest "I told you so" is living so well they wonder how you ever needed them in the first place. It came in the mail. Thick envelope. Expensive paper. The kind of stationery that tries to feel important before you even read a word. Inside? An invitation. Not a letter. Not a plea. A wedding invitation. Ryan and Mia. Renewing their vows. Let that one marinate. The same woman who stabbed me in the back and the same brother who twisted the knife wanted me to RSVP yes to their little redemption ceremony. Apparently, 10 years of mediocre marriage, 3 kids, and a pile of debt now qualified them for sainthood. The invitation came with a note from my mother. It would mean so much to the family if you came. Life's too short to hold grudges. Grudges? This wasn't about a grudge. This was about gravity. Actions have weight. And for once, I wasn't the one carrying it. Sarah found me standing in the kitchen with the envelope open and unread on the counter. She looked at it, then looked at me. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. I think I finally am. I didn't respond to the invite. Didn't return the card. Didn't check the chicken or fish box. Instead, I took Diesel on a long walk. Just me, the leash, and a sunset that didn't require permission to enjoy. Because that's the real win, isn't it? Not revenge. Not proving them wrong. It's no longer needing them to know you did. There's this moment you hit, not all at once, but gradually, when you stop needing closure and start appreciating distance. I used to think I had to win something, the moral high ground, the success race. the apology that never came. But the truth is, I didn't win anything. I chose. I chose to stop bleeding for people who didn't flinch when they cut me. I chose to stop shrinking myself to fit the family portrait they had in their heads. Me in the background, smiling, holding the camera, never in the frame. And I chose something else, too. To build a life that didn't require explanations. See, people like my parents, Ryan, Mia, they live in a world where worth is transactional, where love is measured by how much you give and how quietly you give it. But me, I stopped negotiating with people who only remember my number when their world's on fire. I kept the silence. I kept the boundaries. I kept my peace. But I didn't keep the bitterness. That part's important. I won't lie, there were nights I imagined sending letters. Drafted them even. Things like, hope the house smells like betrayal and unpaid bills. But I never hit send. Because I wasn't writing them for them. I was writing them for the last piece of me that still cared what they thought. And once I was done, that piece was gone too. So no, I'm not angry anymore. Not even disappointed. I'm just free. You know what nobody tells you about healing? It doesn't look like a movie montage. It's not some sunrise run followed by green smoothies and inner peace. Sometimes it looks like going to bed at 9 p.m. without waiting for a reply. Sometimes it's drinking coffee in silence without checking your phone 10 times. Wondering if someone finally realized they messed up. Healing looks like a quiet morning in a house you paid for, with no tension sitting in the corners. It looks like taking your dog to the park without mentally rehearsing a confrontation you're never going to have. It's laughing with someone who doesn't make you question if the other shoe is ever going to drop. Someone who knows what broke you and didn't flinch. Someone who didn't try to fix you, just made space while you fixed yourself. That's Sarah. She never tried to rewrite my past. She just helped me put it in a place where it stopped dictating my future. We don't talk about Mia, or Ryan, or the time I almost lost everything trying to be everything for everyone. Not because it's forbidden, because it's irrelevant. Every now and then, someone from back then will reach out. A cousin, an old classmate. Hey, heard about the gym. So proud of you, man. Your folks must be thrilled. I don't correct them. Don't bother explaining. Because healing also means knowing what's worth the breath. And let me tell you, peace is a quiet room where your name doesn't echo with obligation. We're almost there. I used to think peace would feel like justice, like balance, like one of those courtroom scenes where someone finally slams a gavel and says, Mr. Carter, you were right all along. But that's not peace. Peace is walking through your life and not flinching when the phone rings. It's looking in the mirror and not seeing a caution sign taped to your chest. It's realizing the people who broke you don't get to define the version of you that came after. I don't check their Facebook pages. Don't ask mutual friends how they're doing. If Ryan's still limping or Mia's still posting selfies under motivational quotes. Well, that's between them and whatever therapist they can't afford. Their story ended the day I stopped showing up in it. My story is still being written. Every vet who walks through the gym doors and tells me, man, I thought I was the only one. Every teenager with a military dad who shows up just to feel seen. Every old friend who says, you're not what I expected, but I like it. That's peace. Not dramatic, not glamorous, but stable, grounded, earned. And I know something now that I didn't back then. You don't get peace from others. You build it, brick by scarred-up brick. Tomorrow, Sarah and I are taking Diesel to the lake. No phones, no noise, just air, sun, and a dog who still thinks every stick is a miracle. And you know what? That's enough. I used to think closure would come from a confrontation, some dramatic face-off, a final speech where I'd get to say everything they never let me say growing up. Lay it all out, point by point, betrayal by betrayal. But real closure? It's quieter. It came on a Sunday morning, walking into our newest rehab center, number 5. A young guy named Marcus had just finished his session. 24, Marine, 2 tours, and a stare that looked way older than his driver's license said it should. He stopped me in the hall. You Carter? He asked. Yeah. He held out his hand. Didn't think I'd stick around? First time in 10 years I haven't walked out of something like this. Just thanks. He didn't know my story. Didn't need to, because this was the legacy I'd built. Not one they handed me. Not one I had to steal back. One I earned. And the moment I shook his hand, I realized I didn't owe anyone an explanation. Not Ryan. Not Mia. Not my parents. Not even the version of myself that used to wonder what he did wrong. They took from me. Sure. But they didn't break me. I'm still here. Standing. Whole. And that ring I once hid in a sock drawer? I gave it to Sarah last month. No drama. No secrets. Just a quiet Sunday, coffee on the stove, diesel at our feet, and the kind of yes that didn't need fixing or forgiveness. So if you're wondering how the story ends, it doesn't. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about redirection. And the moment I stopped trying to make them see my worth, I finally started living like I believed it myself.